No money, no time, and a man's life slipping through the cracks. Heartland has faced storms before, but this one is different. It isn't fences breaking or horses running wild. It's Jack. The ranch can be repaired, replaced, or rebuilt. Jack can't. And in the quiet corners of Heartland, the truth is impossible to ignore. Love alone won't keep him alive. The morning sun cuts across the Heartland fields like a blade, sharp and unforgiving, but no warmth reaches the kitchen where Amy sits with her head pressed to her hands. The ledger before her is a cruel reminder of reality. Numbers that never lie, numbers that scream. Heartland is broke. Not just short, not just struggling, broke. And Jack's treatments cost more than the ranch has ever seen in a lifetime. Every bill is a countdown, every phone call a hammer against the fragile walls they've built around hope. Lisa hovers nearby, a quiet sentinel, having done everything humanly possible. Sold horses they swore they'd never sell, called in favors that now echo with unpayable debts, and begged from banks who've already said no. The air is thick with fear and quiet despair, the kind that wraps around the heart and refuses to let go. Jack's absence is felt in everything. His chair, pushed back from the table, waits like an empty promise. The ticking clock doesn't pause, doesn't care. Heartland has survived droughts, fires, and storms, but it may not survive this. Amy thinks of him lying in a sterile hospital room, machines hissing and beeping, a body kept alive by wires and cold technology. The thought twists in her stomach, and the guilt sets in. Every harsh word, every moment she prioritized pride over asking for help, now burns in her chest. She wants to yell, to scream, to shake the walls of the house until they answer back. But there is only silence, silence that mocks her, reminding her that love cannot balance a bank account, cannot extend life beyond the cruel arithmetic of bills. The ranch itself feels abandoned. Horses watch her from their stalls, calm, questioning, aware that the rhythm has broken. Amy walks slowly through the barn, boots echoing against the floorboards. The stalls are clean but unused, the silence almost tangible. It used to be a place of routine, of life and lessons, where days were marked by chores and laughter. Now it is a mausoleum of waiting, of fear that has settled in the spaces between the horses and the walls, in the grain bins and tack rooms, in the air itself. Each sound she makes is too loud. Each breath reminds her of what she might lose. Amy's hands hover over her phone. Lou, she thinks, could help, but Lou has her own battles, and the weight of Amy's desperation is too much to add. Every option has been exhausted. Loans, banks, friends, favors, they're gone. The next payment is due in days, and the hospital will not delay. Amy closes her eyes, trying to steady the panic that wants to rise in her chest. But panic is useless. Tears are useless. What's left is a terrifying clarity. The only thing she can do may not be safe, may not be clean, may not leave her or Heartland intact. But it is all that stands between Jack and a bed that goes empty, monitors silencing forever. The sound of a truck on the gravel driveway jerks her from her thoughts. Visitors are rare these days. Unexpected arrivals almost always carry bad news. She wipes her face and stands tall. Nathan steps out, cautious, taking in the stillness of the yard, the absence of its usual rhythm. He doesn't smile. He doesn't speak casually. He came for a reason. The words that follow are careful, gentle, but heavy. He knows Jack is in danger, that Heartland is faltering. He speaks of people who care about the ranch, not as a home, not as family, but as an asset. They might help, but at a cost. Control, influence, quiet expectations that will never be shouted, but will always be felt. Amy listens, heart tightening. She knows too well what help with strings can demand. Ownership, vision, direction, even the soul of Heartland itself. Night descends slowly, pressing down on Heartland like a physical weight. Amy walks the empty halls, touching familiar surfaces, the banister Jack repaired, the framed photos of generations past. Everything seems unchanged, but nothing is the same. Without Jack fully here, the heartbeat of the ranch feels like it has stopped. She imagines the phone call from the hospital, the calm voice, the rehearsed words, the implication that everything they've fought for might not be enough. Her hands shake, her chest tightens. There is a cost to time, a price tag on survival, and the numbers in the ledger don't tell the whole story. Amy begins to search, not for loans or charity, but for leverage hidden in the history of Heartland itself. Hours pass as she sifts through old files, property agreements, and land maps. Exhaustion creeps in, but the resolve grows stronger. Somewhere in these pages might lie the solution, a way to buy Jack time without surrendering everything. Outside, the moonlight stretches across the fields, cold and indifferent. Inside, Amy's mind races through the impossible. How far is too far? How much is too much? And when the choices come, will she be ready to make them? By morning, the first small opportunity surfaces. A contact willing to move quickly, quietly, with no announcements, no fanfare. Amy feels the dangerous pull of it. Jack's treatment, Heartland's immediate survival, they can be secured. But the question isn't whether they can. It's whether she is willing to pay the cost. Influence, oversight, a stake in the ranch she cannot control. The decision hovers over her like a storm cloud. Heavy, inevitable. Survival is within reach, but the heart of Heartland may never be the same again. The sun rises over Heartland, but it feels artificial, almost wrong, like light that doesn't belong to this ranch anymore. Amy drives into town for the first time in days, eyes fixed on the road, mind racing with numbers, contracts, and decisions. People notice her. They always do. Some glance away, polite. Some linger too long, whispering behind hands or tilting heads with quiet curiosity. She doesn't care. Their opinions are meaningless now. Her focus is on Jack, on the hospital, on a solution that could keep him alive, and on what that solution will demand from Heartland. Nathan waits in a neutral office, papers spread before him, a calm expression masking the weight of the conversation to come. He speaks with care, explaining terms, conditions, and expectations, the language of people who move money quietly and strategically. Nothing is charitable, nothing is free. Influence and oversight are embedded into every clause, subtle but absolute. Amy listens intently, noting every word, every implication. Each sentence is a test. Each offer carries the invisible hand of ownership, a reminder that saving Jack doesn't mean saving Heartland in its original form. She asks questions that cut deeper than the numbers themselves, questions about autonomy, decision-making, and future control. Nathan raises an eyebrow but answers, cautiously. He is not used to someone so precise, so unwilling to be blind in the face of desperation. That evening, Amy visits Jack. The hospital room is stark and white, machines humming with quiet authority. Jack sleeps, though unevenly, the beeping and hissing marking every fragile breath he takes. She sits beside him, hand in his, feeling the warmth that reminds her of the life they're fighting for. She speaks softly, not about money or contracts, not about influence or decisions. She speaks about hope, about persistence, about Heartland, about everything she isn't ready to share. Jack's hand tightens slightly, a gesture that is fragile yet profound. Amy chooses to believe it is real, that it is a signal he still trusts her, still believes she can carry both his life and the ranch. Back at Heartland, the weight of the choice settles over the ranch like fog. Amy signs the papers. The money transfers faster than she imagined possible, filling the void that had been empty for weeks. Calls from the hospital shift in tone, monitoring becomes more aggressive, treatments continue, and Jack is alive. But the ranch feels different immediately. The air itself changes. Consultants appear quietly, smiling, asking harmless questions at first. Every word, every suggestion is a test of boundaries. Every small decision Amy makes is scrutinized, cataloged, and leveraged. She feels the subtle pressure, the invisible tether that comes with borrowed time. Heartland is alive again, but it is no longer entirely hers. Amy's hands shake when she first notices the change in the schedule. Programs she fought to keep running, traditions she cherished, are questioned under the guise of efficiency. A longtime client is quietly turned away, decisions framed as business sense, profit-driven, polite, but firm. Amy feels the cold realization settle. Saving Jack bought time, but it also gave outsiders power. Control creeps in slowly, almost unnoticed, like roots growing under the floorboards. She pushes back subtly, retaining enough independence to feel sane, but every no costs her goodwill. Every compromise is a reminder that survival is not freedom. The nights are the hardest. Amy walks through the barn and fields, alone, moonlight stretching across the paddocks, silent witnesses to the changes she has brought in without noticing. Horses shift their weight, noses twitch, eyes following her. They feel the change too. Heartland has returned to life, but it moves to a new rhythm, one dictated not by love, patience, or care, but by external forces that measure success in numbers, percentages, and influence. Amy presses her hands against the wood of the barn door, feeling the familiar grain under her palms. It should comfort her. Instead, it reminds her how delicate the place has become, how easily it can be altered, reshaped, or claimed. Jack improves gradually. Some days, he speaks with clarity, with humor, with the small, stubborn strength that has always defined him. Amy sits beside him, sharing small moments of conversation, laughter, and reassurance. She doesn't mention the backers, the meetings, or the subtle erosion of her autonomy. She can't. For now, his survival is priority. But the knowledge sits in her chest like a stone, heavy and immovable. Each passing day solidifies the fact that saving a life has consequences beyond the hospital room. Every decision echoes through Heartland. Every step forward on one front reverberates as compromise elsewhere. Lisa watches silently, worry etched into her features. She warns Amy gently about the slow creep of influence, the erosion of independence masked as help. She reminds Amy that the ranch was never meant to exist under someone else's control. Amy nods, silent, understanding the truth but unwilling to act until Jack's immediate danger is past. Heartland is alive again, but it isn't free. And freedom, Amy realizes, may come at a price far higher than money can measure. Night comes again, sharp and still. Stars above piercing the dark sky with cold clarity. Amy walks the paddocks, alone, hands wrapped around herself, mind spinning. The ranch is breathing again. Horses move, trucks return, work resumes. On the surface, it looks like survival. Inside, it feels like compromise. Jack is alive, but Heartland is no longer wholly theirs. Every decision now carries the shadow of control. Amy knows the first cracks are subtle, nearly invisible, but they are there. And sooner or later, the consequences of this survival will demand payment beyond her courage, resolve, or heart. Heartland wakes slowly under a pale morning skia, but the rhythm is no longer theirs. The horses stir, but not freely. They follow schedules dictated by outsiders who never set foot in these fields. Amy walks the barn, boots silent against the concrete floor, listening to the subtle changes that whisper louder than voices. Routines altered, traditions questioned, decisions deferred to unseen hands. The air is charged with a new kind of tension, one that doesn't announce itself with storms or fires, but seeps into the foundation, like water through cracks in old beams. She stops at Jack's old stall, tracing her fingers along the wood, and remembers him. Strong, stubborn, alive. For now, he is alive, but the price has begun to reveal itself. The first meeting with the backers' representatives is polite, professional, almost casual, but every word, every gesture carries weight. Suggestions are framed as questions. Questions as guidance, guidance as rules. Amy listens carefully, nods, makes notes, but her chest tightens. Heartland has always been messy, vibrant, a place of imperfections in life, not spreadsheets and profit margins. Every recommendation chips away at that messiness, replacing it with efficiency, order, and something sterile, neat, predictable. She realizes with a jolt that survival has brought them back to life, but not entirely to themselves. Every step forward on one front comes with subtle compromises on another. The pressure builds quietly. Contractors, advisors, and consultants infiltrate daily routines. Emails arrive with suggestions, sometimes phrased as opportunities, sometimes as mandates disguised as civility. Amy feels herself bending, yielding to the weight of responsibility and urgency, because Jack's life still depends on this fragile stability. Lisa notices, voice soft but firm, pointing out that the longer they wait, the stronger the influence becomes. Amy understands, but she cannot act yet. Jack's recovery is fragile. Pulling back now risks everything. The tension is silent but pervasive. Heartland feels alive, but its heartbeat is no longer theirs to control. Amy begins to see the first cracks. A longtime client is quietly turned away, decisions framed as efficiency. Horses once ridden freely are now scheduled for lessons and training programs designed for maximum profit, not care. Every choice Amy makes carries scrutiny. The backer's influence is subtle, like a shadow stretching across the ranch, unseen but undeniable. Even small acts of independence are measured, cataloged, and sometimes countered. Amy feels the weight of each decision pressing down on her shoulders. She wonders if this is survival or surrender, and the answer frightens her. Jack continues his slow recovery, gaining strength day by day, but Amy knows he does not see the changes that are reshaping Heartland. She sits by his bedside, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead, marveling at the resilience that is still alive within him. She tells him stories about the ranch, about horses, about small victories, carefully omitting the deals, the meetings, the quiet erosion of autonomy. His eyes shine with trust, with hope, and Amy clings to that. But the knowledge that she is trading parts of their home for his life gnaws at her. The balance between love and survival is no longer theoretical. It is the fabric of every day, and it is wearing thin. At night, she walks the paddocks alone, moonlight stretching shadows across the fields. The silence is heavy, broken only by the subtle movements of the horses, restless under the invisible weight of new rules. Amy thinks of Jack, of Lindy, of everything that defines Heartland, and feels the first true pangs of fear. Survival is not victory. Saving a life is not the same as saving a home. What they have now is fragile, a house standing on borrowed time, where influence and control creep like ivy around every beam. She knows the first misstep, the first unguarded moment, could undo everything. Lisa's voice cuts through the quiet, gentle but firm. She warns Amy that waiting too long to reclaim control will only deepen the backer's hold. Every day they accept help, every compromise made in Jack's name, cements an invisible chain around Heartland. Amy nods, understanding the truth, but knows that the immediate danger outweighs the future cost. She must protect Jack first, even if it means surrendering pieces of the ranch she cannot afford to lose later. Survival, she realizes, is a temporary victory at best. Every day that passes without action is another day the ranch becomes someone else's. The nights grow colder. Amy sits alone at the kitchen table, tracing her fingers across the wood where Jack once ate, worked, laughed. She remembers the moments that made this place alive, the stories, the chaos, the love embedded in every corner. Now, that same space is a battlefield of choices, each decision a compromise. The weight of responsibility is heavier than any ledger, more suffocating than the hospital room's sterile walls. She thinks of the future, of the price of survival, and feels the first real, terrifying clarity. Saving Jack has cost them more than she realized. Heartland's heartbeat is theirs again, but it no longer beats freely. Amy's resolve hardens. She cannot allow Heartland to slip entirely into someone else's control, but she also cannot jeopardize Jack's life. Each day is a balancing act, each decision a tightrope walk between love and compromise. The realization is bitter. Survival has a cost beyond money, beyond blood, beyond the immediate danger. It touches the soul of the ranch itself. Every step she takes forward is shadowed by the knowledge that saving one life may reshape everything else. Heartland may survive, but the Heartland she knew, the Heartland Jack built, is changing, and the longer she waits, the harder it will be to reclaim it. Days blur into nights, each moment stretching longer than it should. The ranch moves again, but it does not move to the rhythm of Heartland anymore. Horses are guided, routines structured, and decisions filtered through a lens of efficiency that Amy does not control. The backer's influence is subtle but undeniable. Questions phrased as suggestions, changes presented as improvements, smiles masking silent demands. Amy walks through the barn, boots echoing against the concrete, feeling the shift in the air like a cold wind blowing through every corner. The place she grew up protecting, the home she loved, feels unfamiliar, even alien. Survival has come at a cost, and she is only beginning to understand how high that cost is. Jack's recovery is steady but fragile. Each morning, Amy checks the monitor, reads the reports, watches him breathe, and prays silently that the progress continues. At night, she sits beside him, tracing his hand, feeling the warmth, the stubborn pulse that refuses to surrender. She tells him stories of the ranch, of the horses, of life continuing despite chaos. She omits the details that would weigh him down, the meetings, the contracts, the subtle erosion of freedom that is happening beyond these walls. Jack trusts her implicitly, and that trust becomes both her anchor and her burden. And in the quiet, watching the last light fade, Amy understands the final truth. Saving someone's life changes everything, but it does not have to destroy what they built. Jack lives, Heartland breathes, and for now, that is enough.